Just Incredible here with the Mega Man X3 100% tutorial on the Saber Rush. Now that we have the Z-Saber, now we can mow through these boss gauntlets very quickly. With the starting here, we're going to switch to Hyper C, and we're just going to make our way down this shaft and use our second dash to dash into the door. Now, boss order is kind of important here, because what we're going to do, we're going to use this Hyper C energy to constantly fire charge shots until we get to the Saber. This saves time than charging up the long way with just the X-Buster. And we're going to do this with Blast Hornet and Neon Tiger. The reason being, well, we're already here by this capsule, and this is where we fight Blast Hornet. But due to a special property that Tiger has, we're going to fight him right after. This gets rid of the some of the RNG in this Saber Rush. After we kill the two bosses with Hyper C, we're going to then switch off of it, and we're going to take damage in the process of killing the rest of the Mavericks to recharge our Hyper C for the final Sigma fights in the last stage. Also, that sub-tank that we filled back in Vault Catfish and Crush Crawfish will play a part in this Saber Rush, because since we have to take damage, we're going to be running a especially danger of dying if we don't have that sub-tank. So, first we're going to fight Blast Hornet with Hyper C, and then we'll go to Neon Tiger. So, when we get to Blast Hornet, we're going to immediately ditch our two charge shots, and then we're going to hit Hornet with the Saber. Now, Hornet always does his figure 8 pattern when he does his attack, and then he'll charge at you with his sting. But regardless of his pattern, you should be able to get the Saber hit on him very easily. So you'll fire the first two charge shots into the wall and get quick access to the Saber. Now, at this point, you want to fire the second shot into the wall before touching the wall. There is a bug with the Hyper C. If you touch the wall and fire at the same time, it actually uses double energy. And each Hyper C usage uses 2 units of energy. So with the 28 units of Hyper C that we have, we can only shoot 4 Sabers with it. It takes 6 units of energy to get a Saber for each cycle. So with 4 Sabers, that's 24 units. So you really want to avoid touching the wall and firing at the same time, because if you do this too many times, you won't have enough energy for the Saber. So once you touch the wall after firing the Saber, you will jump off and hit Blast Hornet. Now, also, the Saber has startup frames, so when you use the Saber, it doesn't come out immediately like a charge shot. So if you're attacking a boss from a distance, especially during a dash jump, you have to account for distance before the Saber can actually come out and hit your target. If you get hit before the Saber comes in front of X, he gets canceled out of it, and the energy has already been used here, as you see on this meter. So if he does not get the hit with the Saber, you've essentially wasted energy, and you have to fire 2 more shots before you get another Saber. And you can only do this so many times before you have to cancel to just X-Buster and charge up the long way. So for Hornet, you're going to fire 2 shots, and then Saber. Now, if you get hit after the Saber, it's fine. But it's especially important that you do not get hit after firing the second charge and before the Saber, because if you do, the cycle starts over. Now, this only happens between the second and third shots. If you get hit after firing the first shot, this does not reset. It only happens when you are about to fire the Saber. So the Hyper C does have some weaknesses to using it. You cannot get hit before firing the Saber, and you have to be very careful not to grab the wall and fire at the same time. You only have to worry about this for the first 2 fights of the Saber Rush. So we're going to stop there, and we're going to go ahead and fight Hornet. As you see with my sub-tank situation, I've set up a full sub-tank and almost a partially full sub-tank. And I'll talk about that momentarily. It's also important that you do not switch off of Hyper C until you're done using it. Because if you switch off of it, you have to refill it before you can use it again. And there you go. You have to account for the distance you have to travel before the Saber can come out in front of X. So next is Tiger. Now to get to the Tiger capsule, you're always going to start on top of this refill capsule every time you defeat a boss. And you just see I'm standing still to let my regeneration refill my health. This should not happen because you should always be moving in the Saber Rush. So now, let me go back a few slides to the capsule room. We're going to use our 2 dashes to dash jump and dash on top of this capsule, which is where we fight Seahorse, and then we're just going to dash off into Tiger. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to fight Tiger. Now before I fight Tiger, here's another property of Hyper C. Whenever you use Hyper C against Neon Tiger, if you fire the charge shots as you see here, as you notice Tiger is not doing anything. If you remember back when we first fought Tiger, if you fired a charge shot at him, he would block it. He does not do that here because you're not technically charging during Hyper C. You're just firing lemon-like shots. So he does not block those at all. So you can just shoot the 2 first charge shots freely, and then depending on if he's going to jump toward the corner or he just stands there and shoot Ray Splasher, you would fire the Saber without any fear of him blocking it. Now, depending what he does, now this is a little bit RNG based. If he stays on the wall after doing the first Saber, and if he does do that, you just jump and fire the Saber, because the Saber will go over X's head and hit Tiger in the on his feet. Now, if he stays there, you have to be careful not to take damage before getting the next Saber off. Now, if you can fight Tiger well, you should have 4 units of energy left after this fight is over. And at that point, we're going to start rebuilding Hyper C while we fight the other 6 boss refights. So we're going to turn around and fire 2 shots. That's how you do the first shot. And then if he stands there after... if he comes back down to the corner, you just fire the other 2 shots and just go right at him and Saber, because he will not block the Saber if you're in Hyper C. Now that we're done using Hyper C, because we do not have the 6 units of energy needed to fire another Saber. So now the choice of boss order is dependent on what I think is important, is the weapon order. As you see, I'm going to fight Seahorse next. And his weakness is only 2 weapon swaps away from Hyper C. So as I go to the capsule for Seahorse, I'm going to switch to Frost Shield. Now the quick kills for Seahorse and Crawfish are the same as they were in the initial fight. And they're actually faster than using the Saber. So that's what you want to do here. And I'll just bring up the capsule room one more time to show the bosses. We got Blast Hornet in number 1. We just fought Tiger in number 2. We're going to use our easy weapon swap to get to Seahorse's weakness, which is Frost Shield for number 3. And then we're just going to keep on swapping over to Tri-Thunder for number 4 for Crawfish. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8 can basically be done in any order you want, because you're going to be using X-Buster the whole time. But I prefer to do the Hyper C fights, then the 2 quick kills, and then you just build up Hyper C with the other 4 boss fights. And at some point, you will have to use a sub-tank, depending on which fight you're in. So from here, I'm just going to L-swap twice to Frost Shield. And use my second dash to get into the capsule. If you can, try to squeeze in a hit, because you have to recharge Hyper C. Ideally, you want to finish that fight a little faster than what I just showed. Another good audio cue: you want to kill each boss in the refights before the boss music plays one full time. So from here, we're going to swap 4 over to Try Thunder, and we're going to do the quick kill for Crawfish, which is just like before. And you do want to take the damage for the Hyper C recharge. Now that these 4 fights are done, we're going to fight the remaining bosses with just X-Buster. And we're going to charge up the green, fire the 2 shots, and Saber. Now I'm going to bring up the Hyper C level, and we're going to see that it's built up some energy. A little bit, but we still got a ways to go before we get to full. That's fine. Just keep charging. Now that's bad. But he will do that at 16 health or less. And if he does that, you just lose a little bit of time. But that gives you plenty of time to take more damage and give him the Saber kill. So after this fight, I'm going to bring up Hyper C again, and we're going to see where its level's at now. You see it's built up a little bit more, and we got 3 more boss fights plus Doppler to work with. So I'm going to do Catfish next. He's very easy. If you stay to the left of him, he will always jump in your direction. And it's very important that you do not do additional damage to Catfish, because you can trigger his desperation if he falls below 16 health. The first Saber puts him exactly at 16, and the second Saber will kill him without ever triggering his desperation mode. Now see, Hyper C's up a little bit more. And with these last 4 boss fights, you never go in with a charge, because it always gets erased. I'm going to use my sub-tank now, before I accidentally die. Now, if you have a full sub-tank, there are 14 sub-units in each tank. And if you have a sub-tank full, it will always restore 2 units per sub-unit. So with 14 units of health, you get 28 energy units. If you do not have a full sub-tank, you only get 1 unit per sub-unit in the sub-tank. So if I were to use this sub-tank here, I would only get 2 units of energy back. But that's meaningless, but I'll use it anyway just to get back to full health. Now, if you pause during the charge of a Saber, then you want to hold your charge again to make sure that you don't inadvertently release your shot. And you see there, I threw the Saber into his invincibility, which nullified the Saber. So you have to recharge again and fire the Saber again. And that's a very key thing about using the Saber. You want to use the Saber when you can ensure a hit. If you try to use the Saber as the boss is about to possibly use a attack nullification move, you may lose your Saber. Now we got 1 boss to go, and this Hyper C is almost full. And now we got full health again. We don't have to worry about dying. So we just keep taking damage. Now you hear that chime? That means Hyper C is full. And that is ready for the final Sigma fight in the last stage. And now for Doppler. Once the refights are done, you want to go ahead and start charging up for your green Saber. Use your 2 dashes to get to the door. Now for this section, it's just simple, like getting by the lasers. Just dash jump and then dash in midair to get through the lasers. You may get hit by a couple, but it does hardly any damage. And then you want to release your first shot before you get to the Doppler door. And you can actually use it as a neon jump if you want. So now we're at the Doppler fight. So, to start the Doppler fight, we're going to fire the second charge into the wall. And that'll force Doppler to use his regeneration force field. Anytime a shot is fired, and Doppler is not in an attack, he will automatically bring this force field out. And you're just going to wait. You're going to dash up to him, wait for his shield to retreat, and then you're going to hit him with the first Saber. Now, after this first Saber, you will likely get hit by his projectiles, and if you still have to fill up Hyper C for some reason, if you didn't get as many hits as you hoped for during the rush, you can still get Hyper C filled here. So then after you fire the first Saber, you're just going to simply charge up to green one more time, ditch the 2 first shots, and then hit him again with the Saber, which will kill him. Now, regardless if he has the force field out the second time, he will die, because in order for him to regenerate health, the health has to completely deplete, and then he gets it back. And at 16 health, the 16 damage that the up-close Saber does will kill him in one shot before he can regenerate. You do not want to use the ranged version Saber on Doppler, because the ranged version will deal 8 damage first, and then deal the remaining 4 every 40 frames or so, and he can actually regenerate that. So you don't want to do that. So every Saber shot, if possible, you want to hit up close at all times. So we're going to start this fight with shooting the charge into the wall. Wait for him to break out to return his regeneration. Saber, charge up to green, and then fire the 2 shots and Saber one more time. And he's dead. And that is the Saber Rush. It's very straightforward. So, one more stage tutorial, and that is the final Sigma fights.